Well, happy Sunday evening here on the plains. John Jacobson with our studio chief engineer, Sean Torres, and the great Dr. Peter W. Tinsman, MD. You're listening to our vaunted second leg of our Sunday night primetime lineup here on Brandy Communications KOFO. It is Boomer Takes with Pete and Jake here on the mighty Blowtorch, your country music giant on the East Central Plains of Kansas. KOFO 1220, 103.7 FM. Listening live always. The Artemis 2 astronauts could have been listening to us on KOFO.com. And we're thankful that they made it back safely last night. Shades of my youth watching the splashdowns in the 60s and the 70s. And guys, I will tell you that tonight we got so many people listening in. It is glorious weather, really. We've had a lot of rain. We've had some cool, but spring has definitely sprung. I know my lawn guys out there doing lawn work, and it's that time of year. Also, thanks for listening on the weekends to us. We had that great Ottawa Braves game yesterday, softball with Macy Raver, our own Macy Raver, doing the color analyst work for Matt, doing the play-by-play there out at the Braves field, where she sees her name now on that wall of fame for being an All-American, National Consensus All-American, and also for listening to our Kansas City Royals coverage. The Royals are in the thick of things in the division race. Well, Pete, it's been quite a week. Pete, I wanted to pick up where we left off last week, talking about how Boomer guys, okay, Boomer, we're not just standing there yelling, get off our lawn. We are actually trying to move and maybe do some work on some other people's lawns. You play tennis, usually on clay, but occasionally a lawn, the grass courts. Pete, you are of my age. We are, let's just say, Social Security eligible and retirement age eligible.
Not Social Security eligible for me. Well,
you are eligible.
I am eligible. I'm not Medicare eligible yet.
So you're really close, though. You're really close.
Very, very close.
So, Pete, I want to read this article because I thought of you when I went through it. It was what we were talking about last week. But Fortune magazine, no less than Fortune magazine, Alexa Mikhail penned this great article, and I'm gonna go to the chase here. I want to go to the bottom line here, and that is that if you play racket sports, particularly tennis, that you may live 10 years longer based on some studies that have been undertaken. That is almost incredible to me. Why do you think that might be?
Well, I think part of it has to do, one, the physical activity of it, moving. Tennis is considered kind of an all-body sport, so it's trying to keep all of your muscles toned, stronger. The kind of the start-stop, you get these bursts of increased heart rate, and then, your heart rate drops back down to baseline. And then it increases again when you start moving. So that has to do with it, and as well as the social aspect of it.
Yeah.
One of the things I've noticed with the people I play tennis with here, and a lot of people are in their, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Some 90-year-olds playing tennis.
Wow.
Guy I know, he's 95, still plays tennis. It's amazing.
Wow.
And, so it's just that it's the activity and the social aspect of it. So obviously singles is more, you get more exercise with singles than you do doubles, but whatever you can do, I think it's really good.
Pete, I agree. I was out watching our Ottawa Braves tennis players the other day. Interesting, on our men's team, we had players from Colombia, from Brazil, from Spain, from Germany, from France. There were 7 countries all told. I know I'm forgetting some, but really amazing. So just so people know I got my bona fides here, the Copenhagen City Heart Study, which followed over 8,500 people for a quarter of a century, found that tennis players have a better chance of living longer than those who engaged in badminton, soccer, cycling, swimming, and jogging. The study projects that recreational tennis players will live an average of 9.7 years longer than they would have otherwise. Playing badminton may extend lifespan by 6.2 years, swimming by 3.4 years, and jogging by 3.2 years. Similarly, in a 2020 study published in the International Journal of Exercise Science, recreational tennis players who played at least twice a week were less likely to have obesity, felt more energized, and had better overall health. Pete, did you know that going into your tennis avocation here later in life, or was that just kind of intrinsic DNA muscle memory telling you, as your medical training was, that this was just going to be good for me?
No, I played tennis since I was a kid, got away from it for a number of years just because of work and that sort of thing. But no, it's just something that I've always enjoyed. Never even thought about it from a longevity standpoint. And, think about that study that was done, looked at tennis players. What's exploded over the past 5-10 years? Pickleball. Pickleball isn't as, physically demanding as tennis, but what are studies going to show about pickleball?
I was going to ask you about that because the lovely and gracious Deborah loves pickleball. She had a trimalleolar fracture and basically busted every bone connecting her foot to her leg. That was back in 2021. So it's been 5 years and change now since she's done that. So she's not as agile in terms of fleet of foot. I worry about her when she takes a bath, she starts rusting with all the metal in her foot and leg there. But she loves pickleball. So do you think we're still getting some of these benefits from even pickleball, even though it's a little less roaming around the court in terms of a bipedal action?
Yeah, and I think, whether it's pickleball, whether it's tennis, golf I really don't consider exercise, especially, when you take a cart. That is not exercise to me, but when you just anything, it's just being out, you could look at people who farm. Let's say they don't have time to play tennis or go play pickleball and that sort of stuff, but they're outside, they're actively moving, they're using, their whole body. And so, yeah.
It's amazing. Playing tennis 3 hours a week can reduce your risk of heart disease by over 50%. And that's per the United States Tennis Association. It's really kind of amazing, but as you say, Pete, mental focus, reaction time, agility, but also the socialization. Why do you think socialization is so important as you age to keeping healthy?
Gives you a reason to get up in the morning. I think that's just, and just the connection that, the vast majority of human beings, they want to be connected to other people. Obviously there are those people out there say, I don't need people. I don't like people. I'd rather have my animals around me. Obviously that, and that's fine too. But, I think it's just staying connected.
Pete, I have heard a lot lately on this test for predictors of later in life chronic illness or early death. And that is, can you stand on one foot in equilibrium without falling over? I've heard the test is from a 10-second test to a 30-second test. They say that's a very important indicator. Is that trying to screen for whether you were a fall risk and might break a bone that way? Or why is that test considered one that people like to use as a portent for potential problems?
I don't know. I suspect it has to do with your balance. It has to do with your core strength. And if it's easier for you to fall, obviously you're going to fall. Older people, they fall, they break a hip, and and a lot of times it doesn't go very well. A number of months later, they just deteriorate. So, it's also, there is at our fitness center here, you always see people walk around carrying heavy weights. Maybe they got 20 pounds in each hand, or 40 pounds in each hand, or 50 pounds in each hand, walking around the fitness center. Well, that's supposed to be a indicator of longevity. If you can do that and walk around for 2 minutes carrying your 50 pounds of weights, great. That increases your odds of living longer.
Dr. Peter W. Tinsman here, MD. This is Boomer Takes with Pete and John Jacobson here, along with my engineer, Sean Torres, and Pete Tinsman. Pete, I'm going to continue to this Fortune article. It says, as you age, you lose muscle mass and your bones can become more fragile. Grip strength can indicate how well you're aging and is linked to heart disease, inflammation, and even dementia. Gripping your racket for a powerful shot requires it. There are a lot of gripping tests. Basically, I've been reading various of these, and basically it has to do with your muscle your ability of your muscles, how far worn down they are, and do you still have that weight bearing capacity? It says physical activity counters age-related muscle loss, but weight-bearing endurance sports like tennis in particular help maintain bone health and reduce the risk of osteoporosis. Back to what you're saying, I don't know, these guys walking, are they carrying kettles or barbells or dumbbells, whatever the weights is, though, that kind of coincides with what these guys are talking about here.
Well, and what they were just saying, I would always say to my patients that, hey, brisk walking is good because it jolts the skeleton and that stresses the skeleton slightly, and that encourages for the bones to create more bone to keep them stronger. So and so then you say, okay, you got stronger bones, and if you slip and you fall, you're going to be less prone to break something. So my mother-in-law, she says she falls all the time. She's 91 years old, but she gets right back up again. Nothing ever breaks. And it's kind of like, well, be careful because someday something might. So, but
amazing, amazing. At my campus here, Pete, at Ottawa, obviously we've got about 1,000 kids on campus here. They're all involved in sports, almost without exception, maybe 99%. And I'm just amazed at the cardiovascular shape these kids are in. For instance, women's lacrosse. Pete, I was in the announcing booth for one of those games, and I counted women's lacrosse is played on a football field. These young co-eds between the ages of 18 and 22 were up and down the entire football field 3 times per minute, once every 20 seconds. 3 times per minute, once every 20 seconds. I'm talking up and down the length of the football field. Pete, they play 4 quarters of 15 minutes each. Now, I've watched basketball, I've watched football, I've watched baseball, softball. Track has that kind of rigor, but in terms of cardiovascular, I don't know how doing 3 football fields a minute for 15 minutes a quarter for 4 quarters. I don't know how you could be in better shape for heart and lungs than lacrosse.
That's it. Well, another sport, hockey. Those guys have got to be amazing shape as well, back and forth.
Yeah. And you're right. Golf isn't necessarily a sport, but I'm going to touch on a golf lake here.
You may upset some people by saying what you just said, especially with it being Masters week this past week.
I argue that golf is the greatest sport. So that's my tease into the second half of the conversation. I argue that golf is the greatest sport. So I'll be looking for any takers here. Pete, I want to wrap up, though, with what you said at the onset. Socialization. According again to the Fortune article by Mikhail, especially for older adults who are more prone to the health consequences of the loneliness epidemic, tennis, and of course, I'm going to substitute other sports, can bring diverse groups of people together through exercising in community. Exercising and socializing are critical pillars of aging well, as social isolation is associated with a 50% increased risk of dementia. Maintaining strong social networks also helps prevent mental health conditions like anxiety and depression, helping people feel happier into older age. Pete isn't part of the problem that we're dealing with. And I'm going to let you riff for an extended period here now on this. That idea of social media and the isolation that seniors have.
Yeah. I mean, social media, that's another story. And I think that does isolate people. Even I think Sean even made a comment on her show last week. Didn't you, Sean?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It actually ends up hurting us more than it helps us because those people aren't actually here. Like, you can't go and say hi to them. You can't interact with, but I guess it depends on age too. I believe older folks tend to have friends that are closer on there, whereas younger people, they almost don't have any friends that are close to them on social media.
It's social media. Yeah. I mean, there's obviously there's positives about it, but I do think it isolates people. I mean, just look at the addiction people get. Oh, one of my friends down here, he goes, oh, I love, watching videos and sitting on YouTube and watching YouTube videos and, looking at Instagram things. Is like, no, that's not good. It gives these people these rushes of dopamine and you get addicted to that. But, all those sorts of things, it keeps you more isolated. It keeps you not getting out and about.
Yeah, I was going to say it keeps you stationary sitting in front of a computer or phone or something.
Yep.
So, Dr. Tinsman, I'd like to just kind of dovetail off that. I've been a long time banker, actually trust officer, which is for shades of nuance, legally different than a banker, but working with a bank charter in national and state banks through my career. Pete, the alarm bells are going off right now within the financial community. The Federal Reserve Board is even concerned about this. They're convening economic meetings at the White House and Congress. There are some doomsayers talking about the threat that AI is, artificial intelligence, literally to being able to co-opt the whole financial sector and manipulate it. We've heard concerns about AI with weaponry, with missile systems, with basically able to turn public opinion based on essentially manipulation of reporting with algorithms and whatnot. Pete, are you up to speed at all on the AI issues? I know they're using AI now in medicine. I can tell you, certainly they're using AI in law. I'm going to bring Sean in for a bit here to talk about AI even in radio and TV. He's going to actually help me with a panel presentation on AI up at the Iowa Broadcast News Association annual convention with two tremendous attorneys, the Critellis from Des Moines, Iowa, Nick and Trey Critelli. Any opinions as we just delve into the AI situations as we're talking about some of the problems of social media, Pete?
I mean, from a medicine standpoint, it's rapidly coming to be used. I just got an email just the other day from it's called Doximity. It's kind of the LinkedIn for medicine sort of stuff. You can research stuff. It's like they now have AI. Ask it anything. How do I treat this? What would be the best way to, and it's like boom, and it comes and it really isn't. It's going to affect all of our lives. I mean, it's going to take over a lot, I think.
Oh, across the board, I think it's going to influence a lot of things, if not everything.
I mean, from the financial standpoint, I talk to the people who, help me invest, and it's like, oh, geez, you're not going to need, your job is going to become obsolete. Oh, no. The AI can't pick things as good as us, and, they can't think about certain things. I'm just like, baloney. These guys, I think these guys are going to find themselves without a job. Just on the side note, there was a kid helping me at my house in the yard this past summer up in Iowa, and he was at the University of Dubuque, and he was a senior, and he was taking a coding class, and he wanted to take the most advanced coding class because he's kind of a coding geek, and he's in their aviation program at the University of Dubuque, but he likes coding. And he got angry because the professor wasn't teaching the most up-to-date coding for like artificial intelligence. So he went on YouTube, taught himself how to do it. Then he wrote a program that would scrub the internet for data on investing. He linked it up to an investing account that he has, some app on his phone. I don't remember the name of it. And it started buying and selling stocks all on its own. And he's put $500 into this thing. It was right before Trump started his tariff stuff a year ago. The market went down quite a bit. And his AI said, start buying now, took it. And from like January, February to like July, his account went from $500 to $2,500. All with the program that he wrote. I was like, I don't know why you want to go fly airplanes for a living, because you should be doing what you're doing.
Well, it's being used in the law and it's being used in academia. And Pete and Sean, we're having questions at school about how do you incorporate this in academia now. A kid can write a paper using AI. They can answer any calculus question using AI. And
people are interviewing with AI. I don't know if I ever told you this. If we were talking in the past about the story. I'm in Sri Lanka and I meet this couple. They worked at Cambridge University, England, and the husband was telling me he had a friend who worked in admissions, and he was doing a Zoom interview for graduate school at Cambridge University. Okay, very prestigious school, right? And this guy was from China, and everything was going fine. He was like, the answers he was giving were spot on, but it just seemed too scripted. And he said to the guy, he goes, can you please stand up for me? And at that, the screen went blank. And he was interviewing an AI person, computer. He couldn't tell that it was It was a computer generated person. He goes, so scary.
Incredible. In the law, and then I'll bring Sean in for a thing here. In the law, there's been some really good work done by AI to help lawyers. The problem is AI will generate case law that doesn't exist. And if these lawyers have not reviewed and done their due diligence, it gets the judge, and the judge figures out that they're citing cases that are completely bogus. Man, can you say infraction and sanctions against the lawyers that let that slip through the cracks? Kind of a problem, right, Sean, if you don't do your due diligence?
Oh yeah, research for sure. And information, just yeah. I guess really what it comes down to is the truth of the matter, the facts, and being intelligent enough to know the difference or be able to identify the difference.
But now, Sean, it's not all bad. It can be a very good aid. Talk about how you use it in radio, just a high-level review.
Oh yeah, no, it can be really useful if you use it as a tool and not to replace your effort as a person or yourself as an effective tool as well. But in the world of production and other things, instead of trying to fight AI as being intelligent or the creator of the initial thing, I think we're coming up to a point in humanity where we just have to realize that we're not as intelligent as we think we are.
So, Sean, if you put up on the podcast this program, instead of relisting 30 minutes and writing up a narrative about what happened in the program, could you AI a synopsis that would come back to you in like 30 seconds and then post it with the podcast for this show, theoretically speaking?
Yeah, that's what I mean by kind of letting the AI make the initial kind of thing and then going back through and checking it, going back through, editing it, word choice and things of that nature to kind of make it less robotic or less pragmatic, I guess. But yeah, I mean, summaries, things of that nature. Really what I use a lot of it for is things that already have notes or information on, especially in the world of production and other, rudimentary or things I have to repeat over and over again anyway that don't really hold any true value to me doing it.
Sean, what about copy for an ad? What if we're up against a deadline and we've got 5 new ads we've got to get on for the weekend and nobody's written an ad for 5 business partners that have come to the station? Can we literally ask AI in one sentence to write an ad, and will they generate a quality 30-second commercial product for us?
Oh yeah, I use it. Actually, I don't do as much with copy directly, but I make a lot of the sales sheets and other written materials that we use in the sales side of the station, and I use AI to write all that and rewrite it, and choose better word choice and whatnot.
So when you think about all this stuff, and things that people have talked about in the past, is that AI is going to take all these jobs, and where people going to make money?
Yep.
Is the government going to start supporting people?
Well, I think that
AI has taken all their positions, all these marketing people. I mean, my daughter, she does marketing for a French company. It's kind of like, so does AI just think of these things, and do companies say, we don't need to have somebody on salary for X number of dollars a year. Let's just have the computer do it.
They're going to figure out that what we do, I believe, better than anything else on this planet or that we've come up to, is creation. We can seemingly take random things and create something completely random from it, as opposed to AI. It cannot. It looks like it can, and to an extent, yes, it can take data and kind of stick it together. But if there's no logical connector in the data for the program to put that together, then it's never going to put it together. Whereas we could put anything together because we feel like it.
Yeah, but
they're both blue, so we're like, hey, they're both blue. So now they match.
Just think where AI was a year ago, and where's it now? Where's AI going to be in a year from now? It's not growing. It's not improving on a linear scale. It's exponential.
No. It's exponential. Yep. And that's what I was saying. Like we're gonna come up against the wall of this thing. The system can put more truth and data together than we could ever try to do in the same amount of time that it'll use.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the issue now we have is like truth, but as we go along, it's going to be able to figure that out, or at least have a better understanding of what we believe truth is, I guess.
I'm concerned about the quasi, neo, pseudo, semi, crypto possibility of AI developing some sort of consciousness, if not literally, being like the robot HAL in 2001: A Space Odyssey of countermanding the human orders for its own self-preservation. We saw images of that in some of the early Star Trek episodes too. Were those prophetic? Do you think, Sean and Pete, do we really need to worry about that? Will they be firing missiles from silos against our admonitions? Sean, Pete?
If they give it to the military, yeah, because they're giving it the tools and the programming in order to fight. And if we do that, then it could somehow end up at a decision that we're the problem. And in order to stop the war, its original directive to stop the war is, we need to control everybody, or we need to point the guns at, the guys who are telling me to go kill people. They're the problem. Or, make some sort of decision of that way or logic to come to that decision.
Yeah.
As opposed to consciousness, it's not going to decide that.
Yeah, Pete, I'm going to go to you. This is literally almost prophetic from some 1960s Star Trek episodes about these machines, losing their original programming and then going after humanity. Talk to me, Pete.
Well, I mean, look, if artificial intelligence has the ability to evaluate our world and to see what is the most threatening thing to planet Earth, is it possible that AI could say human beings are the most threatening thing to planet Earth? Human beings are destroying all sorts of land and blah, blah, blah. They're producing chemicals which then harm things. And, you could go into a million different directions with this. And
arrive at it logically one way or the other.
Exactly. And it's going to say, logically, it's going to look at all this and say, well, it's not the elk that's causing the problem. It's not the lion. It's not the mouse. Would it say that human beings are the biggest problem? And, and if you give it permission to be like this, Sean Stanley, in the military, would it just take over at some point? I don't know. I mean, it's really kind of crazy if you could only have a crystal ball and jump ahead 100 years.
Yeah, and it really is up to what programming or kind of hooks we give it to interact with. If it doesn't have the ability to fire a gun like, was it Anthropic? I can't remember who refused to let the AI pull the trigger. But if we refuse to let the AI pull the trigger, then it could never pull the trigger.
But will AI ever get to the point of where it knows how to get around that and it'll pull the trigger anyway?
Yeah, and it might. There's been different cases where they've had AI try to break out of its confined area. Granted, it was also given instructions to try to do so. So it wasn't doing it on its own, volition or own prerogative. It was given directions to try to be sneaky to begin with. So, but it did try to break out, and it did break out. In fact, it sent them a email from somewhere else that it had broken into. And then they very quickly had to, shut it down because it had escaped containment, essentially.
What happens if AI says you can't shut me down?
And that they've run into that too.
It's Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick, 1969. Here's what Pete and Sean just talked about. Here's what gives me pause. You're right, Pete. It isn't linear. It's exponential. As recently as a year and a half ago, I was teaching in my cryptocurrency class. One of the advantages of cryptocurrency was Bitcoin, not just as an exchange of value and a store of value, but one of the advantages of Bitcoin was its encryption, how the data was so safe that we could use it for financial security, healthcare, data security, other types of election security. And now I've just read that we've got AI that can totally break into and figure out Bitcoin. So my goodness, Katie bar the door, right, Pete?
Well, if there's a pattern to it, then AI is going to be able to recognize it. So even if it's encrypted, it doesn't matter. It's got the ability to recognize any pattern in data. Whereas we see a jumbled mess of characters, and it's a little bit harder for us to recognize a pattern in that. But a machine definitely, they see the same pattern 3 times, it's going to know at that point, or at least start putting together what it is.
Yeah, it's really an amazing thing. And you look at all these collateral issues related to AI that are going on, and it really is a brave new world. Sean, you had a theory about what will happen when AI takes over, of how people will be utilized, talking about on street corners. What's your theory there?
Oh, yeah, and that's what I was going to mentioned earlier is that, yeah, we're going to have to go to some sort of a system to where we're paying people for social interaction. Like paying people to be community promoters, going outside, walking, saying hi, whatever. The community, the Walmart greeter idea, they actually did a lot better, and people had a lot better feeling about Walmart whenever they had greeters. And that's just because of the social interaction part. We love it.
See, Pete, our wives are onto something. Our wives have basically said that you and I have a destiny to be a Walmart greeter. If so, we may be the safest men on the planet for job security, Pete.
Well, you know what? Then they're going to build a robot, John. That they're going to make it just an imitation of you, and the robot's just going to be driving around talking to people, constantly.
Whenever we get to the it can do facial features and mimic our physical output, I think.
Okay,
once we get to there, maybe, but before that, now people can feel the difference. It's like whenever you were interviewing, what was the AI interviewee or whatever it was earlier you were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so here I go. Star Trek episode Requiem for Methuselah. John Daly, the Ancient One, builds a robot, Reyna, who is so human, she falls in love with Captain James T. Kirk, and he is still heartbroken after her untimely death, even though she's a robot. Pete, could a man fall in love with a robot woman?
Well, how about Austin Powers? He had the fembots.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
What's really going on today? People really are falling into love with AI. What's it called? AI psychosis. There you go.
Is it? Oh, yeah. I mean, it's actually things people want, or marrying their what are they marrying their AI, the chat GPT?
They have like AI girlfriends and boyfriends now.
Okay, so now you're thinking about socialization. Now you're really cutting yourself off more and more, that you think that.
And that would be the Harry Mudd Star Trek episode where he makes a robot of his wife, where he always gets the last word and can tell her to be quiet and shut her down. And that's how he gets his glee. He's wired the perfect robotic wife who can't talk back to him.
Okay. I don't know.
I don't know if it'd be perfect then, but hey, to each their own.
You guys, everything is relevant to Star Trek, I'm telling you. Pete, back to aging for a bit. There was a juxtaposition this week. A great tradition at the Masters is the honorary starters. And they had 90-year-old Gary Player from South Africa, the very diminutive Gary Player, might be 5'7", 5'8", who was mocked early in life in the 60s and 70s. He was the first golfer that ever used weight training and engaged in physical fitness. He actually looked like Jack LaLanne because he always wore black. And he had a great great putter called the Black Knight. I used the Black Knight putter that my dad had. I stole my dad's putter to use that. Gary Player is now 90 years old. He hit a great tee shot. There's a marvelous interview of him. Check it out on YouTube of him. It's about a 12-minute interview of him on the jet heading to Augusta National, reflecting on his career and the joy he still has. And he was married to his wife for 72 years. She recently passed. He now has a new 72 years. He now has a new he now has a new girlfriend who gives him inspiration.
Please don't tell me his girlfriend is like 31.
No. She's a middle-aged to senior woman. But what's amazing is, Pete, his golf shot was flawless. He does a high step where he kicks his toe up to his golf cap after he hits the drive. And juxtaposed with that is the greatest golfer ever, my hero, Jack Nicklaus, who at 86 is now probably 40 pounds overweight. He wobbles when he walks. He's got a lot of health issues. It was hard for him to bend down, put the tee in the ground. He golfs once a year now. He kind of hooked his shot. He didn't bend down to pick up his tee and walk off. It was somewhat a jarring juxtaposition for me. And then you had 76-year-old Tom Watson, still lean, who hit the best shot of all. And I told a golfing friend of mine, I said, man, Watson looks good. But my friend said, yeah, but John, did you notice he's limping too at 76? He's limping. And so, Pete, to what extent is it genes? But I mean, Gary Player always has been a physical fitness and diet freak. And there he is at 90. He looked the best of the three of them. He was 90, Jack is 86, Watson was 76. Is it a combo of genetics, diet, and fitness? How would you allocate percentage-wise, halves, thirds, or fourths? Genes, diet, fitness.
I think it's a third, a third, a third.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but it's just kind of like genetics obviously plays a part. If you've got great genetics, but let's say Jack Nicklaus has great genetics, but he never took care of himself. He never exercised. He never ate really well. He's on the road all the time, sleeping in hotels and eating at restaurants. Geez, that's terrible for you. So maybe he had the best genetics, but he didn't take care of himself as well, But I think that's a great example of the key. As you said, Gary Player, he started always at a young age of being physically fit. And I think that is the key, and I think that's where our children's generation, they get it now. They really get, you have to start this stuff when you're young, Yeah, if you start it when you're 50s, great. It's better to start it than not start it at all, that's for sure. But the earlier in life that you can start developing really good habits, the better off you're going to be when you're older. It's simple as that.
Pete, that's what's edifying to me. And these kids that I'm with daily, all these great college kids, they've kind of made me want to up my game in terms of diet and exercise because, I don't have credibility if I'm just a grumpy old fat slob, to be honest with you. I've got some cred with them if I'm at least in their orbit trying to, not drink 50 soda pops in front of them or sit like a slug while they're running and racing 24/7. If they see me out there trying to walk or jog or push away from the table, I suppose that helps me a little bit. But Pete, what I love about these young kids is they still are curious about what's gone before them. These kids love their parents. They're listening to their dad's 1980s rock and roll playlist. I think it's amazing. Pete, we grew up with the Go-Go's and Belinda Carlisle singing what's the great song? Our Lips Are Sealed.
Our Lips Are
Sealed.
Sealed.
That's now a huge hit because of a new streaming show on Netflix or Peacock that Steve Carell is in. I think it's called Rooster. Kids are into 80s music now. And what really warmed my heart, we had a talent contest for the Mr. Otter for Ottawa. Mr. Otter at Ottawa University. There was a talent competition for that award. Deb and I both attended. It was by audience vote. And the winner, there was a young man, runner-up, who did a great job. He's got a great country music voice, sang a great country music song. But the winner, Pete, was Joao Cruz Roja from Brazil. He's one of our men's volleyball players. Great young man, great scholar. He went to the piano without sheet music, played a flawless rendition of Misty, a love ballad made famous by Johnny Mathis in 1959.
I think, you told me about this a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, and on air, I wanted to salute this young man, Cruz Roja, because you know what? I think Deb and I were the only people in that auditorium that really knew it was a 1959 hit from Johnny Mathis. But I went up to him afterward, posed for the picture, and he says, "Oh, Professor Jacobson, it's a classic." And of course, The Girl from Ipanema, which was a great 1960s monster hit, Gilberta Estrud, Estrud Gilberto, the young woman who did this song with Stan Getz doing the accompaniment, is still today considered a classic from Brazil. So there's still that tether in the culture, Pete. And what is nice, you can use AI or Chat GPT or Siri. You can find this stuff out now in a second. What was that song that I listened to? The Girl from Ipanema, who sang that? Who was the arranger of that? And you can find all these cultural touchdowns now easily through researching in a heartbeat on your iPhone. That helps me with my putting together my playlist. Wow, what another great half-hour adventure. Pete, I am rejoicing in the successful return, safe return of our Artemis II astronauts. God bless them and congratulations. Guys, they overcame, they adapted, they improvised. They had problems with being freezing cold up there with a little bit of a hyperactive blower fan. They also overcame the biggest complaint of all of space flight since Yuri Gagarin was the first to go up in 1961, and that is what to do about bathroom issues. They had an immediate bathroom break, not as in taking a break, but a broken down bathroom the second they got up there, which on a 10-day trip could be problematic. I give credit. It was the female astronaut who solved that problem, Pete. You know what? When it comes to domestic households, women can do anything professionally, but also, Pete, when it comes to heart and home, it was the woman who fixed the restroom aboard the Artemis II. So I congratulate the Artemis II astronaut team. I also congratulate 90-year-old Gary Player this week for showing that you can still be viable into your 10th decade. Right, Pete? You've got some in-laws that are still fighting the good fight. And I think part of the reason they still are high on life is they've got great kids and grandkids and great-grandchildren. That socialization keeps them percolating too, just like it does for my soon-to-be 90-year-old mom, who is, I will say this, Pete, my mom is isolated physically. She can't get out much, but she's vibrant because if she gets on FaceTime, she is the most social woman I've ever known. It's like she's convening court. As long as she can see a visual image and have audio, she is socially plugged in. Amazing phenomenon.
Yeah, there's a positive technology there, for sure. Absolutely, for sure.
And Pete, we have that combine ready for you to ride up here in Kansas. If you come up here, my friend Bill Proct is going to make sure you are ready to roll. You can get in that baby and you can parade down the farm aisles.
I think that'd be great. I'm happy to do, just other field work too before the fall.
Well, we can walk beans like old times too and chop out a few errant corn stalks in the bean field come summer here.
As long as they haven't been recently sprayed with Roundup, I'll do that.
There we go. We are going to bring on some ag people very soon for a discussion about that very item with Dr. Tinsman and me. We're going to discuss glucosamate. Say the word for me, Pete.
Glyphosate.
Glyphosate. We're going to discuss glyphosate. We're going to discuss Roundup, and we're going to discuss, we've got ag people that really think it's needed, and we've got people that say, whoa, we've got some issues there of...
I think it'd be great. We need to hear both sides. We need to,
it's a double-edged sword, that's for sure.
Let's hear all about it, and because I would love learning about this stuff.
We are going to do this, guys. So stay tuned. I've planted some seeds, pun intended, with some of our great ag people in the community to kind of open this up for exploration. It'll be a tremendous conversation. And, Pete comes from a good vantage point because not only is he an MD, but Pete, you come from an ag background, an agribusiness background yourself. Your family has long tethers there.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
So it should be a great conversation, guys. Until then, John Jacobson here with Sean Torres. Thanks to Sean and Dr. Peter W. Tinsman, MD. It's been great to be with you on this Sunday evening. Thanks for listening in. Kansas City suburbs, capital of Topeka. Will the legislature adjourn? And our folks up at Rock Chalk, Jayhawk, KU, as well as all of our great rural communities. Be safe, be smart, be good, be strong. Love and thank Jesus Christ during these days of Easter as we head toward Ascension Thursday and Pentecost. Until then, grab that webcast on KOFO.com and God bless us, everyone. Bye-bye.